Now, what I want to do now is skip to the part B where we're going to use software to do this. Okay. Now, it says use the knowledge gained in using software, Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, okay, to graph the same points as in the last activity. Okay. Now, what I mean by the last activity is what you just would have done by hand. When you have finished, take a screenshot of your graph using a selected part of your screen, not the entire screen, and paste it in a new Google Drawing. Then you're going to go to Google Drive, select New, click More, then Google Drawing. Then be sure to name your Google Drawing Graphing Activity 1, highlight and label each part of your graph, including the following: title, independent, dependent, variance, scale, and legend. And it should look something like this, okay? Now, this lesson, I kind of like, spoil the surprise because I like showing kids what the, finished product is, but you can create something that appears like this, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, I was working on a video that would show you how to do all this, but I'm just going to, I'm recording today's lesson so that if for whatever reason you don't catch everything, I will post this recording and you can watch it again. Or maybe if I have time, I'll just create a recording of just what I'm about to do. Okay. So here's what you will do. Okay. Now, I am going to show you how to use Google Sheets, probably for the first time ever for you in the capacity of graphing. Now, I'm sure you've used Google Sheets to maybe type stuff up or make a schedule. Like if you had me for tech last year, I think at the end of the year last year, I'd have a choice board to make a schedule. I mean, that's all fine and nice, but the real power of Google Sheets is using it for mathematical and statistics and analysis reasons. So I'm going to show you now how to do that. So I am opening up a new tab, and I'm literally just going to go to Google Drive. I'm going to go to New, and then it should pop up here. I think it's just still loading. Let me try that again. New. That's interesting. There it is. Google Sheets. Now, before I move forward, I want you to notice this little More button, because a little bit later, I'm going to have you do a Google Drawing. Okay. And that's how you find Google Drawing. You have to go under More, because there's more things that you can do within Google here. So
you can actually find it on the waffle, I will say.
Okay. Thank you. You can find it on the waffle as well. Thank you. All right. So now, right off the bat, my big pet peeve, untitled spreadsheet. We're going to fix that. And if you want, you could follow along right now if it's not too much, but I'd rather you pay attention. You can do what I do, but I want you paying attention. So if by doing what I'm doing is going to cause you to lose attention or get lost, then just watch me, because you'll be able to do all this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to enable this activity. Hold on. I'm going to call it Graphing Activity 1. Okay, and then you should put your name. So I am John Smith or Peter Parker. I'll put Peter Parker. Peter Parker Graphing Activity 1. Now, here is what's called a blank sheet. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to try to cheat actually. Normally, you guys don't have the benefit of this because this would be printed out. But hey, since we're in tech class, why don't we cheat a little bit? I'm going to come here and I'm going to select, right click, copy, go here, right click, paste special values only. Paste should work. Oh, it didn't come the way I thought. Hold on. Let me try this a different way. Just paste. There you go. That's what I wanted. Don't do paste special, do paste. Now I could double click. You see how this turns into double arrow right here? If I double click on it, it will auto size it a good size. Actually, I'm going to make it bigger. I want to make it. Okay. So just some background on this data. Basically, this is an experiment where you're measuring how many bubbles that plant A versus plant B creates underwater, depending on how deep it is. Now, some of you be like, well, what's that? Well, remember, plants give off oxygen, right? They take in carbon dioxide, they give off oxygen. So this is like a way to run an experiment to see which plants at which depths create how much oxygen. So it's a legitimate experiment. So now I might want to know now, how is it that I can graph this stuff? All right. Now watch what I'm going to do. Now, part of the reason why I wanted to record this separately is because sometimes it takes some manipulating, some figuring around. So if I make a mistake, I may have to backtrack, but I'm going to go off of memory here. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click and drag from the upper left to the lower right corner such that it is all selected here. Okay. And you can see it because there's that little blue box right there. Let me do that again. Click and drag. And now I'm going to go to, I think I need to do insert chart. I don't know why it's so slow today, guys. There it is. So look at that. Instant graph. You can imagine if you did the same graph by hand, it would take you anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes to do. And I literally did it in seconds. Okay. This is the sort of thing I'm telling you about, guys, when I say you learn technology to make your lives more efficient and be a better student. If you're like me, who has terrible, and I'm not kidding, terrible handwriting, this is a godsend. This is something that makes me look professional. Okay. Now we're not done. It's done. It has created a pretty nice graph for me, but I want to make some changes here. Like I don't want a line chart. I want, oops, let me just say, got it here. Okay. I want a scatter chart, right? Because the scatter chart's going to give me my dots here. All right. Now, there's some other things. I don't see my axes labeled here. Okay. So I'm going to have to go through here and find, well, how am I going to do that? Okay. So let's see, use where I want one as headers. Let's see if I take that off. Okay. So yes, this will show me that blue is plant A, red is plant B. So this is my legend here. Okay. Now I don't like this graph, the name of the graph, number of bubbles, minute. And okay. I want to call it something like, and here's the easiest way to label a graph is Y versus X. So on my Y, I've got number of bubbles, and I'll put MIN for minute versus whatever my X is. And my X is, yes, depth, and put M for meters. That is a nice graph. Okay. Now look at this. Now what I kind of got a lot going on my screen right here. So I am going to change my view here to like 75% so I could see more. There we go. Okay. And I want to move my graph so I can maybe see some of my data. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of just start clicking around my graph here. I'm going to click over here by the y-axis. Ashton dropped out. Let me get him back in here. Okay, and I'm going to right click on here, and you see where it says axis? I'm going to go to vertical axis, and now I can go and try to find where do I label it. So here's the label font, auto, label color, and let's see, minimum value. Let's see, I'm looking for where do I actually name it? Vertical label font size, text, color, treat labels as text. I do not see right now where I actually type it. Let's see here. Let me try this again. Let's see, chart editor. So I will investigate this and get back to you. See, the thing is like Google Sheets and even Microsoft Excel. I'm more familiar with doing this in Microsoft Excel, so this might be kind of a nuance, a difference. X-axis depth in meters. Oh, this is labeled. How did it know that? Why don't I have horizontal axis depth title text? So that one, let me change this to vertical axis now. Here we go. Now I'm going to call this number of bubbles. And I'm going to, oops, two B's, and put that in MIN there, okay? All right, so let's see, do I have everything? Let's go back to my Google Doc. I need to do this for the title, independent variable, dependent variable, scale, and legend, or I'll call this or key. I'll put that in parentheses because some of you may know this as the key. So let me go back to my graph. I've got my title, okay? I may want to center this a little bit better. So let's see if I can do that real quick. It says minor. It's just a pet peeve of mine. I like to have things centered. Oh, that did that. Yeah, I'm going to have to figure out maybe. I don't know
You
why.
have to highlight it. I highlight it and then do that.
Okay, let me try that. Yeah, see, it takes it off as soon as I go. Not a big deal. I mean, if you guys can't get it centered, I'm not going to sweat it. I can cheat and put a bunch of spaces here. I don't like cheating, but, you know, whatever. Okay, so I've got my title. I've got my key or legend. I've got my y-axis title. And I definitely want to put parentheses minute so I know what I'm talking about. In fact, depth in meters. Okay, let's just stay consistent here. And let me just call this depth and put parentheses, because this is how an engineer would do it. They would put the unit in parentheses, just like I did here. Okay, and I pretty much have everything but the scale. Now, the scale is something that shows me, okay, every line, is it worth 10? Is it worth 100? Is it worth 1,000? Well, here the scale is 10. Here the scale is 5, okay? And I would have to point that out. Speaking of pointing that out, let me tell you what to do next, okay? So legitimately, we have finished our graph in a matter of, let's call it minutes. But if I know what I'm doing, I could do it in seconds, right? So let me go back to RHTA graphing activity 1, and then let's get back to the instructions. It says, okay, graph the same points as in the last activity. That is the bubble minute thing. When you have finished, take a screenshot of your graph using a selected part of your screen, not the entire screen, and paste it in a new Google Drawing and go to, be sure to name your drawing Graphing Activity 1 and highlight enable each part of your graph, include the following, and it should look like something like this. So this kind of looks like somewhat what I just did, right? Except these little highlighted variables with the arrows aren't there, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do next, okay? So let me do that. Going back here to my graph, I am going to use a screenshot tool. I'm on a PC, but you guys use that Control Shift and whatever's that key above the number 6. You guys know how to do that. If you don't, I can show you. So I am now going to take a screenshot of this. And now I have it, okay? Now, I am going to now go back to Google Drive. And I'm going to click that rainbow plus sign, that new. And I got to wait again because it's slow for whatever reason. And then I'm going to go to more. And then I'm going to pick Google Drawing. There we go. More Google Drawings. Again, it's going to say untitled drawing. So I need to go here and call it, whenever it's done loading, Peter Parker graphing activity 1, right? All I'm going to do here is right click and hit paste. And there's my graph. Now I can go and label all this stuff. Now I can just center it. That red line tells me I'm center. And I'm going to go to insert, text box, and I'm just going to draw a text box and I'm going to call it title. Okay. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to leave it a little bit bigger than normal because I'm going to use this as a template. Now, before I use this as a template, I want to go and highlight. So here I go under, where's highlighter? There it is. Highlight yellow. And in addition to that, I want to go here where it says line and change it to be an arrow. And I'm going to draw the arrow to what this is. Okay, that's my title. Now, remember, if I want to switch back to being in arrow mode, I will go back here to select mode. Now I'm going to select title. I know it's selected because I see it outlined in blue there. And I'm going to hit Control C and V 4 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to move these to the parts of the graph that I need to label. Like I know I'm going to have to label the Y or X axis. I know I'm going to have to label the Y axis. I know I'm going to have to label the key or legend. Okay. And I know I'm going to have to label the scale at some point down here. So now all I'm going to do is change this to Y-axis. Change this to X-axis. Change this to scale. And change this to legend. And now I just got to fill in my arrows and I'm good to go. So I go back to arrow mode, draw arrow from here to there, from here to there. That wasn't very good. I'll change it in a second. Scale, I'm going to draw 2 arrows because I want to show for every line how much it changes. And legend right here. Okay.
Coach Matthew, Philip is in the waiting room.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So this is kind of a crappy arrow. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to change back to select mode, select the arrow, and then I'm going to change kind of where it ends up and where it begins, you know, something like this. Okay. I'm pretty much done. So all I got to do now is take this and get it. Actually, no, I'm turning this in. In fact, I think that's what my instructions say if I go back. So it says, paste it in a new Google Drawing. Okay, should look something like this. I should be clear and say something like, when, whoops, I don't want to do this. How about I do it like this? Be sure to name it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. When finished, turn the Google Drawing in Google Classroom. Okay. So this document is what ends up in the assignment. Okay. Now you are going to see some questions below here. You don't need to answer these. Okay. I am more focused on you knowing how to create the graph using the digital tool rather than the math part, which I'm sure Coach Maxwell has covered throughout the year. So I'm not so worried about you telling me the independent, dependent variable, all that kind of stuff. I should say, yeah. Okay. So I know that was a lot of explanation, but today I want you to do this. And then tomorrow I have a similar activity where I'm going to give you a lot less instruction. I want you to see if you can do it on your own. And then I'll give you a sneak preview. I'm going to tell you about this. This is called a digital wireless thermometer probe. In other words, what this can do is I basically press a button. I use Bluetooth to connect it to my device, and it reads the temperature wherever this is, up to a couple hundred degrees. I gotta get the stats on it, but basically, if I want to do experiment, anything having to do with a thermometer, I don't have any wires or anything. I don't have to write any data. I don't have to graph anything. It literally will stream the numbers how often I tell it to. So let's just say, I wanted to measure soil temperature over the course of the spring. I could stick this in the ground and read the temperature every second for the entire spring. So there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do. But before we do that, I wanted you to be familiar with how you can look at data, create graphs, interpret graphs before we did that. Okay? So now is the time to ask questions before I let you go into breakout rooms and work.